back to the intersection of money and politics. You're watching Political Capital. He is known more as an entrepreneur than a politician. Herman Mashaba is the executive mayor of the city of Johannesburg with headaches as big as his city. Chris Bishop is on the story.
I'm here in Roodepoort in the west of Johannesburg to speak to the man who runs this city. That's Herman Mashaba, the mayor of Johannesburg. Now, he was a man who once said he was never interested in getting into politics. Now he's in, he's finding it very tough. I'm here to talk to him about the finances of the city and some of his pretty insurmountable problems that he faces in the mayor's chair. But first, the reason why he's here in Roodepoort is to launch what's being seen as maybe a day of hope for entrepreneurs. Well, thank you very much for joining us on Political Capital. You mentioned here a bit of breaking news. You're going to hand over 71 buildings in the centre of Johannesburg for low-cost housing and also for hubs for small and medium enterprises. How practical, how is it going to be done?
Well, I think what happened is on the 1st of December 2016, a few months after I was elected on my 100 days in office, realized and discovered this great opportunity to address the massive housing challenge that the city was facing. Because at the moment, legislatively, all the municipalities run provision of houses based on getting grants from national government and province. And as you are aware, they've been running this failed system of RDP houses that I said to myself, I'm not going to really be pursuing failed policies. I've got to really be creative, come out with a new concept, and realize the city of Johannesburg to be a great opportunity. Buildings hijacked, neglected. And I said to myself, I've got to get these criminals out of these buildings. But as a city, do I have the money to be able to build the accommodation for our people? No government in the world would have such. So, but then at the same time, you look at the private sectors with the expertise, with the right balance sheet. I said to myself, let me come out with a plan to convince the council to support my plan to turn this inner city into a construction site. Put together the plan and fortunate enough passed by council, and now the city owns over 80 of the buildings in the inner city. Late last year, I've started to test the market. I made available 13 buildings for us to use them as a learning exercise. And the breaking news was last Friday, now 71 buildings in one shot, which in 2 weeks' time there will be tenders out, asking the private sector to give us proposals to build affordable accommodation for our people.
Give us an idea of scale. I mean, how many homes could you get out of that and businesses, and also what sort of size is that?
Well, I think, Chris, if you look at the overall city of Johannesburg, we've identified close to 500 buildings with that potential. So you will see at every council meeting, I would really, for the next few years, I would like to really make available a minimum of 500 buildings because there's a potential of over 500 buildings that needs revamp, needs to be, some of them needs to be taken down and build new structure. We need the density, high-rise buildings. So whoever is going to win and give us proposals is someone who's going to show us their balance sheet, they have the capacity to build, because I need investment in the city. Someone who's going to tell us how many units you're going to build. I'm not looking for someone who buys some paint and think that that's what we want. No, we are saying how many units you're going to build, how many employment opportunities you're going to create during the construction period, what type of rentals you're going to charge, because we want affordable accommodation. Also, very key, give us your artisan training program. Us as a city, we've already started the program with the University of Johannesburg, where we are giving the academic side. Now, this construction boom that we're going to experience in the city of Johannesburg, we want to align it with artisan training.
Now, you said here in your speech this morning that you were going to make the rule of law apply again in the city of Johannesburg. How difficult is that, though?
Well, I think it's a very unfortunate situation. The city collapsed. The country overall is failing to economically perform because there's been generally the breakdown of the rule of law. And us in Johannesburg, I run a municipality with certain competencies. So in terms of JMPD, we can arrest, but once you're arrested, then we hand you over to national and provincial government to make sure that they prosecute you. They then put you in jail. Unfortunately, the city does not run such competencies. That's why every time I get an opportunity to complain that one day the city of Johannesburg has got to have its own prosecutorial responsibility, have its own jails. Because, Chris, if I had such infrastructure, I can tell you a lot of people would be in jail. People who've stolen money from our residents. In the city of Johannesburg, just in 22 months, I've uncovered almost 18 billion rands worth of corruption. And people are still walking the streets free because our criminal justice system is refusing to work.
But can you do that? It sounds like a good thought, have your own city jails, but is it possible?
Well, we will need constitutional amendments. Fortunate enough, 2019 is around the corner, and I'm confident that we'll have a new government in place, and we will engage that new government to ensure that big municipalities like Johannesburg are given such power so that certain issues we can really deal with them without having to rely on national government's delays.
And it's more than, well, it's only 2 years now since you took over as the mayor of Johannesburg. You once said that you were never going to go into politics. How difficult is that job?
Well, you know, I mean, this job, Chris, is the last job in the world I wanted. I never imagined in my life that one day I'll be a mayor of the city of Johannesburg or be a public servant. I mean, you know me, I'm a full-blown capitalist. It's in my system. But there was just no way that I would really sit back and allow my country to be run by criminal syndicates. Because what has happened the last 10 years or so, our country was run by criminal syndicates, and for me to sit back and watch this in a constitutional democracy, that's when I threw my head in the ring to say I'm available to derail this criminality and stop this criminality. And fortunate enough, residents of the city of Johannesburg on the 3rd of August 2016 put a stop to this. Are we going to win overnight? Unfortunately, as I've just indicated to you, the overall criminal justice system is not the competence of the city of Johannesburg.
How difficult is it running it with this coalition? You've got with the economic freedom fighters, and you still have the ANC in the wings. There's still talk that the ANC will try to oust you before your term's over.
Well, the ANC has tried to oust me even before I was elected. In fact, they tried to oust me while I was still campaigning. On the 22nd of August, on the day when I was elected by multi-party arrangement, they said this government is not going to last until December, and communicated this to the officials that I inherited in the system. We are now 22 months into administration. Really, I'm a Democrat. I believe totally in democracy. For as long as people who voted me into power want me to remain in power, I will really be the executive mayor. Is it an easy exercise? What's easy? Show me anything in life that is easy. So, but at the same time, as much as it's a difficult process, but it's a very rewarding job. It's a very rewarding job where now the criminal elements in the city of Johannesburg are being flushed out.
Well, you're getting a lot of criticism on this very program, Political Capital. A gentleman by the name of Lebhang Maile, who's a politician, he told us that he thought you didn't know what you were doing, and he further said he thought you were a clown. What do you say to that?
I think, do I laugh or do I cry? Honestly, I really leave it to really make a judgment. I mean, the only thing that he knows in his life is to really go out and make political rhetoric. That's all. I mean, that's the only experience he's got in his life. That's why it's easy for him to really make such a pronouncement. I run the city of Johannesburg on behalf of the residents, and I don't have time to respond to people that actually make such statements.
Speaking of which, the residents, the financial situation, there's been a lot of talk in the papers in the last year or so that we're getting to a crisis point. There's problems everywhere. How are you balancing the books as a private businessman, entrepreneur?
I think, Chris, I'm sure you're aware, ever since I took over this administration, the level of corruption that I encountered, inherited in the system, a balance sheet that on a daily basis, literally I've asked myself, how did the previous administration actually hoodwink people for so long with this balance sheet? I mean, just to give you one example, simple one, of something that I raised regarding the substation in El Dorado Park. Remember in January of 2017 when I was doing my budget, I see there's a balance, there's the substation that is just about to be completed. And I sent a team to go and see how much money we need to complete this. Payments been made from 2015, but when I went in, there was no substation. I went to Hopefield substation, which had fire a year before. Company paid in advance to do the job. No job was ever done. Bought 1.7 billion rands company called MTC. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And fortunate enough, I think you will see for the first time when the Auditor General audits our current financial year that's ending in few days' time. Because all these issues I've shared with the Auditor General to demonstrate that this balance sheet, which was sold all along as a true reflection, was a really manufactured type of balance sheet. I'm dealing with the reality of the situation. The city of Johannesburg, we're still able to really meet our obligation, and we'll continue. We will improve. You'll see an improvement on a year-by-year basis. But obviously, the mess I've inherited, there's just no way that anyone can expect me to fix it overnight.
Just last but not least, on a wider issue with elections coming next year, it's clear to a lot of people that the DA is struggling at the moment. There was a fight in court with Patricia de Lille that ended this week. What is happening in the party? It seems that there's a lot of problems going on.
Well, Chris, I run a municipality called the City of Johannesburg, and that is actually my focus right now. The national politics, I leave it to DA national leadership to deal with. I have too many challenges. 1 in 5 of our residents unemployed, over 900,000 of our people, 300,000 housing backlog, 170 billion rands infrastructure backlog. I think that has to really be my priority, not to really worry about national and international politics.
And just last but not least, how long do you intend to do this job for? How long do you
intend? For as long as residents of the city of Johannesburg allow me, legally I've got to run until 2021, but I run a very complex, delicate government for as long as the people who voted me into power on the 22nd of August, all the parties are happy for me to be in government until 2021. I'll be there, unless obviously something happens before that. I'll be led to move aside, as long as it's done in a democratic manner.
Well, that's all we had for this edition of Political Capital. We're back on your screens next Tuesday at 6:30 Central African Time. Until then, good evening.